Alright, what's up, Dragon Brood? Let's talk about rabbits. This is a deck that kinda can go a couple of ways. You can go heavy on counters, or tokens, I should say, and go that route and try to go wide, or you could try to go really fast and just beat them down with rabbits. This one's kinda more on the beatdown side of things, and we'll go over most of the new cards first, and then we'll talk about some of the old cards that support this plan. But let's go ahead and start here with Paw Patch Recruit. This card's actually super sweet in the fact that it's a 2-1 for 1, with a lot of upside, right? Like, you can pay 3 and get 2 of these, which is awesome. And it has trample, which is good because we do have a few things that can pump our creatures. But additionally, anytime something is targeted by your opponent's stuff, you can actually now put a counter on something else. So in a way, it kind of prioritizes killing this, or your other stuff gets bigger, and we really like that here. It's really cool. We are going to play some Regal Bunnycorn. This isn't a new card necessarily, but it is a rabbit that's sort of fallen off a little bit. I will say this is probably even better if you're going to go real wide and just make a bunch of tokens. But I think here it's still a sizable body, and it's probably acceptable. We're going to play a couple of copies of Seasoned Warren Guard. This is just cool because if we have a token out, it gets +2. So it becomes a 3-2 for 1, which is super awesome. Otherwise, it's a 1-2 for 1, which is acceptable. And again, we have some stuff that can make it larger anyway. Now, we're going to play Valley Mightcaller, and this isn't a rabbit at all, so it probably looks a little weird that it's in here, but it is a 1-1 for 1. It does have trample, but every time a frog, a rabbit, a raccoon, or squirrel you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter on this. Well, since we're playing a whole bunch of rabbits, this should be getting a +1 quite often. Valley Quest Caller, nothing surprising here. When we have one of our rabbits enter the battlefield, we'll get to scry, but this also pumps everything +1/+1, so obviously it was going to make the cut here. And then we have Warren War Leader. This is a fun card because it's a 4-mana 4/4, so we have something solid on our top end. But when it attacks, you get your choice of either making another rabbit token, which obviously, you know, can pump your Mightcaller, can make your Regal Bunnycorn bigger, can add a bonus to your, not the Quest Call, or the, man, the Warren Guard. All these names are so similar. But yeah, big body, does a lot of good stuff for the deck, or just gives all your creatures +1/+1, right, when it's attacking. But in addition to all this, we're going to be playing Hop to It. Now, this gives you 3 1/1 rabbits, again doing all those things we were just talking about, right? Like, that's a +3 to your Mightcaller, because that's 3 rabbits coming into play. It's a +3 to Regal Bunnycorn, because you're making 3 more creatures, right? So, lots of stuff we can do with this, and they'll be getting pumped up from, like, the Quest Caller and things like that. So, really like this card in here. And one of the other new ones I'm going to play, I'm playing 2 Carrot Cake. Now, I think the Carrot Cakes could ultimately be cut, but I wanted to give them a shot, and it's a common, so if people wanted to try it, it's not going to cost you really any wild cards to mess around with it. But it is a way to gain life, which could help you out in some of those mono red or mouse matchups where they're just coming at you super aggressively. It does also make a rabbit token both when it enters a battlefield and when it leaves, and you get to scry. Like, so it's doing a lot for 2 mana, so I don't mind that at all. It also counts as a couple of permanents for Bunnycorn. It gives you a trigger for your Mightcaller. Like, it's doing a lot of different things. So I'm good with it being in here for now, but if it doesn't work out and you want to cut it, this is probably the card you cut. Now, getting into some of the more older support cards, our boy is making an appearance here. King Darien Extra Large the 8th. We're giving him a shot. And mostly because I wanted something to help the rabbits out, right? If we have these extra tokens, but there was the other rabbit that has the green adventure, and it gives all tokens +1/+1. The difference here, though, is King Darien Extra Large the 8th actually pumps all your other creatures. So I really would rather have that, since we're not going to have a ton of tokens. And I like what this brings to the table. And in a pinch, if we do have a couple of tokens and a sweeper goes off, cool, we can save like 2 or 3 1/1s and keep doing our thing. So I don't mind that at all. And if we don't want to dedicate any more of the board, we can just spin 5, make a 1/1 with it. So I like that. Following up with some other old stuff, Knight Errant Avios. This is probably, like, if you own these already and you want to replace a Carrot Cake, this is probably a reasonable spot to replace a Carrot Cake. But being able to dig deeper to find some of your other cards, especially if you want to find like a Quest Caller to pump your team, or you want to find a Warren War Leader to be able to get more attacking damage in there, like, this is going to be good for this card. We have a ton of creatures in the deck. We've got 25. Plus, we have some things that make tokens. So that actually could be even more things we could go find too. So, or more cards we could dig through. So not too upset about that. This should be good. And we needed another sizable body, and this helps check that box. Now, to go with all of this, we are going to be playing Case of the Gateway Express. We've probably been annoyed by this card if you've been playing against Boros tokens a bunch, but honestly, this card's good. It'll allow us to kill very likely 3, if not 4 power things or 4 toughness things fairly early. And then we're just attacking, and it's another way to pump our team. Take advantage of some of those tokens, right? And another card I decided to add in here, kind of last minute, was Archangel Elspeth. And I wasn't totally sure what I wanted to do with the upper end of the deck, because we knew we wanted Knight Errants, we knew we wanted the War Leader. But the reason I'm going with a couple of Elspeths is really twofold. One, you're able to make 1/1 tokens, also with lifelink, which is nice. But that does add to the Regal Bunnycorn thing. You know, it's another token that gets a bonus from King Darien, so it could be a 2/2, right? It's not a rabbit, but it does kind of help some things that we're doing. But I like the other side, too, of we have something like Regal Bunnycorn that might just get stuck and not be able to punch through. It's like, okay, cool, let's put a couple of counters on it and then get in there with flying, right? Why not? And then in a real pinch, if the game goes real long, most of our stuff is pretty cheap, so then we just minus Elspeth and get a bunch of our stuff back, right? So it does a few things for us. And I wanted a card that was going to help you survive those sweepers, because I expect there's still going to be a lot of Brotherhood's ends. I was about to say Depopulate, but whatever the new 4 mana one is, No More Witnesses, I think it is. You'll be seeing stuff like that. So I wanted a few things that gave us some options later in the game. And Elspeth seems like it fit the theme of what we're doing. Now, lands, we're not going to be too surprised overall, but this is where we are going to get a copy of Fountain Port in here, because we do have some tokens, so we will be able to draw some cards periodically. You know, making a fish is fine if we just want to make something else to attack with. Treasure doesn't do much here unless we're just out of tokens and want to be able to draw a card. We're not going to play a lot of them because we do actually want white mana quite a bit in this deck, but I don't mind having one just as a kind of later game catch-up mechanic if we don't have much to do with our mana. Additionally, we are going to play a copy of Lupin Flower Village. This is a way that we can just search for another rabbit later in the game. And we are also playing Oak Hollow Village. This card can also put a +1/+1 on each frog, rabbit, raccoon, or squirrel that enter the battlefield that turn, which means if we have like 4 mana and a hop to it, we can play the hop to it and pay a green, and then all of those will come in with the +1/+1 counter on it. So there's a lot of value to be had out of the Oak Hollow Village in this list. And of course, to no one's surprise, we will be playing Cavern of Souls because we have a lot of rabbits. And we're also playing a copy of Merrick's because, again, tokens and all that other stuff that we're doing. But I do want to say overall, like, can rabbits go a different direction? Absolutely. There's probably, by the end of the season, we'll probably see like 3 different distinct builds of rabbits. I think there's different ways you could go for sure. I think there's also like a 2-mana trample rabbit you can play that's acceptable if you don't have Regal Bunnycorns. I think that slots into that spot very well. Again, you can cut the carrot cakes for other things if you want to. You could go heavier with offspring options. So like there's a lot of ways you can go. This is, to me, is just a good, really solid starting point that at least checks a few different boxes and doesn't leave you kind of completely without in any matchup, I don't think. So this should be a fun one if you're looking for a way to play rabbits. But if you want to see a bunch of other decks, both with new and old cards, if you're trying to figure out how to use wild cards, I've got a playlist that's been linked in this whole video, so you can check that out. Or you can check out my raccoons video and see what that looks like. But that's all I have for you for now. We'll see you next time.